Dr. Alexey Muraviev is an associate professor of national security and strategic studies at Curtin University. He joins me now live from Perth, Australia. Professor, how long do you think this last pocket of Ukrainian resistance in Mariupol can hold out against Russian forces? And do you think that they'll fight to the very end?
Look, I don't think they have too much of a choice, especially since they have declined Russia's offer to lay down arms. In theory, the resistance can go on for days, if not weeks, because of the vast underground communication network that exists under this massive industrial facility. Having said that, the Russians began bringing in what most Western militaries and military experts expected them to bring in, the heavy firepower, including strategic bombers, which effectively can wipe out all elements of the resistance very quickly. So I think unfortunately for the Ukrainian military, it's not the question of how they can continue to defend that last sector of Mariupol. The majority of Mariupol is at Russia's hands. We have to acknowledge this. But when it will fall, and with no prospect of Mariupol being aided from the outside, because the Ukrainians don't have the capacity to break through the blockade of Mariupol, I think those who are fighting on the ground as heroically as they have so far are effectively doomed, and that needs to be understood.
You know, I'm wondering about the logistics of getting military aid and weapons to eastern Ukraine, where we're seeing these battles raged. I understand that getting weapons to those soldiers or to that last holdout in Mariupol is impossible. But what about other areas in the eastern of Ukraine? What are the logistics involved with, resupplying forces there with weapons and supplies?
Well, clearly the Ukrainian military tried to increase the aid and military assistance to their forces. They have been fiercely defending their country since Russia's onslaught began. However, the Russians began adopting new tactics, which surprisingly they haven't used so far. They began attacking main train stations. What really surprises me as a military expert that the Russians haven't attacked railway bridges across the Dnieper River, because if the Russians would be serious about cutting off eastern Ukraine from the rest of the country, and particularly cutting off Western supplies to eastern Ukraine, they should have really targeted those bridges. I don't know whether they deliberately not attacking them because they want to use them for their future offensive, which can partially reveal Russia's future intent. But they've been quite, the Russians have been quite systematic in targeting new arrivals and certainly existing army munition depots, oil refineries, etc. There is, I think, the Ukrainian forces fighting in eastern Ukraine experiencing increasing shortage of ammo, of fuels, of lubricants, and questions also been raised about the morale, because unfortunately there's been video evidence of large-scale surrenders in Mariupol areas, and the Russians claim that they have captured as many as 3,000 Ukrainian servicemen in eastern Ukraine. We can doubt these reports. We can be skeptical about this report, but there is obviously a point which every military would recognize. Those forces have been fighting Russian offensive nonstop for almost 2 months now. And there is a point where you start feeling tired emotionally, physically, especially if you cannot be replenished, if you cannot be pulled back from the front line and given some rest, or at least receive what you need. So as much as you may have strong spirit to fight, and clearly the Ukrainians have been showing amazing spirit to fight and resist, but there is also this physical and emotional fatigue, and how long it can last, there is a big question about this. And unfortunately, it's working to Russia's advantage right now, because their forces received much needed break.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now. Alexey Muraviev joining us from Perth, Australia. Thank you.
Thank you.